माननीय अध्यक्ष जी,
papers to be laid. Shri P Chidambaram. Let me complete the paper lay. Let me complete the paper lay. Shri P Chidambaram, let me complete the paper lay.
Madam, I beg to lay on the table
Let me complete
Hindi and
the
English
paper lay.
versions of the mid-year economic analysis 2013-14 under subsection 1 of section 7 of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003.
Shri Ghulam Nabi Azad.
Madam, I beg to lay on the table of the House papers mentioned against me and serial number 2 of the today's revised list of business.
I beg to lay on the table of the House the paper listed against the name
Let me lay the paper.
Patel in serial number 3 in today's revised list of business.
Madam Speaker, with your permission, I beg to lay on the table of the House papers listed against my name in today's revised list of business.
All right. Shri Jyotiraditya M. Sindhya.
Respected Madam, I beg to lay on the table of the House papers listed against my name at serial number 5 in the revised list of business for today.
I'll get back to you. Shri Sachin Pilot.
आज के कार्यों की संशोधित सूची में क्रम संख्या 6 में मेरे नाम के आगे उल्लेखित दस्तावेजों को सदन के पटल पर प्रस्तुत करना चाहता हूं।
श्री मनीष तिवारी।
With your permission, I beg to lay on the table of the House the papers mentioned against my name at serial number 7 of today's list of business. Thank you, ma'am.
Shri Pavan Singh Gatowar.
I beg to lay on the table of the House the paper listed against the serial number 8 in today's revised list of business.
Shri K.C. Venugopal.
Permission, I beg to lay on the table of the House the documents mentioned against my name at serial number 9 in the revised list of business of today.
K.C. Venugopal. Shri Kodi Kunal Suresh. K. Suresh. Secretary General.
Madam, I beg to lay on the table a copy each of the amendments and modifications to directions, Hindi and English versions issued by the Speaker under the Rules of Procedure on Conduct of Business in Lok Sabha.
Shri Kamalnath.
Madam, I beg to present the 55th report of the Business Advisory Committee.
ये हो जाने दीजिए। श्रीमती मेनका गांधी।
Ma'am, I beg to present the 39th and 40th reports of the Committee on Government Assurances as listed against my name at number 13.
Rajkumari Ratna Singh.
Madam, I beg to present the 22nd action taken report on the Committee on Empowerment of Women as listed against my name in serial number 14 in today's order papers.
Shri Ashwant Sinha. Shri Rajkumari Ratna Singh.
Madam, I beg to present the 15th final action taken statement pertaining to the 11, 15 and 18 reports, 15 Lok Sabha on the Committee on Empowerment of Women as listed against my name at serial number 15 in today's order papers.
Shri Bhartahari Mahatab.
महोदया, मैं आज की कार्यसूची के क्रम संख्या 16 पर मेरे नाम के समक्ष यथा सूचीबद्ध विधि संबंधी स्थायी समिति के 83वां और 84वां प्रतिवेदन प्रस्तुत करता हूं।
Shri P.L. Punya.
Madam, I beg to present the 22nd and 23rd reports of the Standing Committee on Petroleum and Natural Gas as listed against my name at serial number 17 in today's order paper. Thank you.
Dr. Mehboob Beg.
Madam,
और 30वां प्रतिवेदन प्रस्तुत करता हूं और सभा पटल पर रखता हूं।
Shri Shailendra Kumar.
connected with the history and perenniality of the indigenous people of Assam. We, the people of India, also want to live in India as dignified Indian people.
की अनुदान मांगे 2013-14 के संबंध में समिति के 98वें प्रतिवेदन में अंतर्विष्ट सिफारिशें संयुक्तों पर सरकार द्वारा की गई कार्रवाई संबंधी उत्तरों के संबंध में 71वां प्रतिवेदन।
Have created a good number of new states in the country. If this is so, why there cannot be a separate state of borderland?
Shri Ghulam Nabi Azad.
I would like to ask upon the government of India.
Madam, in pursuance of the provisions of the directions 3073A of the directions of the Honorable Speaker Lok Sabha, I wish to inform the House the status of the implementation
Doordarshan,
the statement being laid on the table of the House of various recommendations contained in the 17th report of the Department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on
I wish to make a statement regarding the status of implementation of the recommendations contained in the
respect of the Ministry of Water Resources
of the Standing Committee of Commerce on action taken by the government on observations, recommendations contained in the 100th report of the Committee on Demand for Grants 2012-13 pertaining to the Department of Commerce, Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
Respected Madam, I beg to lay on the table of the House a statement regarding the status of implementation of the recommendations contained in the 28th report of the Standing Committee on Energy on Demand for Grants 2012-13 pertaining to the Ministry of Power, mentioned against my name at serial number 23 of today's revised list of business.
Srimati Deepa Das Munshi.
Madam, with your permission, I beg to make a statement regarding status of implementation of recommendation contained in the 24th report of the Standing Committee on Urban Development on demands for grants 2013-14 pertaining to the Ministry of Urban Development.
Shri Sushil Kumar Shinde.
On the House that the Council of Ministers of the Government of National Capital Territory in Delhi tendered its resignation on Friday, February 14, 44. The resignation of the Council of Ministers of the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi came up after the inability of the government of NCT Delhi to successfully introduce the General Pal Bill for the consideration of the Legislative Assembly. This bill was a finance bill and necessitated prior reference to the central government by the Lieutenant Governor, which procedure had not been followed by the government of NCT of Delhi. Under the circumstances, based on the report of the Lieutenant Governor and the recommendation of the Union Cabinet in the meeting held on 15 February 14, the Honorable President has accepted the resignation of Sri Arvind Kejriwal, the Chief Minister of GNCT of Delhi and his Council of Ministers, and also approved the imposition of the President rule.
And rule.
No, point of order rule. Under what rule are you giving this? No, what is the subject before what is the motion before the House and which is the rule under which you are raising the point of order? You mean?
Madam, that Andhra Pradesh reorganization bill, the way it was...
No, first give me the rule before you proceed. First,
violated.
No.
Sir,
nothing will go in record. Yes, P Chidambaram. Please give the rule. Give the rule before I make you. No. Yes.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present the interim budget for 2014-15. As I prepared to write this speech, I found that Whether it is a regular budget for the full year or an interim budget, some things remain the same. For example, our goals are the same and the global context is the same. As I said last year, we are not unaffected by what happens in the rest of the world. Since September 2008, the state of the world economy has been the most decisive factor impacting the fortunes of every developing country. Hence, it is pertinent to say a few words on the global economy as well as on the global risks. The world economic growth was 3.9% in 2011, 3.1% in 2012, and 3% in 2013. Those numbers tell the story. Among India's major trading partners, who are also the major sources of our foreign capital inflows, the United States has just recovered from a long recession. Japan's economy is responding to the stimulus. The Eurozone as a whole is reporting a growth of 0.2%, and China's growth has slowed from 9.3% in 2011 to 7.7% in 2013. The Global Risks 2014 report has mapped 31 global risks. Of highest concern are 10 risks that include fiscal crisis, structurally high unemployment or underemployment, income disparity, governance failure, food crisis, and political and social instability. The challenges that we face are common to all emerging economies. 2012 and 2013 were years of turbulence. Only a handful of countries were able to keep their head above the water, and among them was India. I shall presently give you an account of how we navigated the Indian economy through this turbulent period. Now, what do you want me to do? I can't do like this throughout. I don't intend to. No, you can't read the whole thing like this. It's coming very clearly. No, maybe, but this is not the way our budget should be read. This is it. It's coming very clearly. I may be so, but I don't intend to read this.
Nothing will go on record other than the budget. Nothing else will go on record. Nothing else will go on record. Nothing else will go on record. Please take your seat. Please take your seat. When you have no point of order, you can give no rule.
No.
Please.
It's not that. I don't want to go back. You're not going to go back? No, sorry.
Honorable members, you see, these are the last few days. Honorable members, these are the last few days of the 15th Lok Sabha session. Interim budget, something which is the constitutional duty of the Finance Minister. He is performing. Please don't obstruct. Please don't obstruct. And if you have any problem, you come to my chamber later. You come to my chamber later. You come to my chamber. आप जाइए, प्लीज जाइए. नहीं, हाँ, 0 आवर अभी बाद में देखेंगे हम. अरे 0 आवर बाद में देखेंगे. बजट होने दीजिए. आप बैठिए. You come to my chamber later. You come to my chamber later. Whatever the problem, I will try my best to sort it out. आप जाकर बैठ जाइए. बैठिए. Yes, Honorable Minister.
No need to adjourn. Promoting manufacturing, encouraging exports, quickening the pace of implementation of projects, and finding practical solutions to certain stressed sectors such as petroleum, power, coal, highways, and textiles. Let me begin with the good news. The fiscal deficit for 2013-14 will be contained at 4.6% of GDP, well below the red line that I had drawn last year. More importantly, the current account deficit that threatened to exceed last year's CAD of $88 billion will be contained at $45 billion, and I'm happy to inform the House that we expect to add about $15 billion to the foreign exchange reserves by the end of the financial year. Analysts and rating agencies had acknowledged our efforts some months ago and no longer speak about a downgrade. I hope that domestic experts will now agree that the UPA government meant what it said when it put fiscal stability at the top of the agenda. Going forward, I appeal to all political parties to join me in the pledge that we shall never do anything that will affect the stability of the foundations of India's economy. Last year, when I read the budget speech, WPI headline inflation stood at 7.3% and core inflation at 4.2%. Through the year, inflation saw its ups and downs. At the end of January 2014, WPI inflation was 5.05% and core inflation 3%. Both the government and the RBI have acted in tandem. While our efforts have not been in vain, there is still some distance to go. Food inflation is still the main worry, although it has declined sharply from a high of 13.6% to 6.2%. Ask this guy to go back there. Come on, one guy will stop the parliament. We are proud of the stellar performance of the agriculture sector. Food grain production in 2012-13 was 255 million tons, and the estimate for the current year is 263 million tons. Estimates of production of sugarcane, cotton, pulses, oil seeds and quality seeds point to new records. Agricultural exports in 2012-13 stood at $41 billion versus imports of $20 billion. In 2013-14, agricultural exports are likely to cross $45 billion. Agricultural credit is likely to touch 7,35,000 crore rupees, exceeding the target of rupees 7 lakh crore. Agricultural GDP growth increased to 3.1% in the 5-year period of UPA 1 and further to 4% in the first 4 years of UPA 2. In the current year, agricultural GDP growth is estimated at 4.6%. Even after the slowdown, the savings rate was 31.3% in 2011-12 and 30.1% in 2012-13. The corresponding investment rate was 35.5% and 34.8% respectively, indicating there was no steep decline in investment, except in mining and manufacturing. If the incremental capital output ratio had remained more or less the same, the outcome should have been a growth rate higher than the 6.7% and the 4.5% reported so far by the CSO for the 2 years, but that did not happen. It was obvious that projects were not achieving commercial operation date, and there were too many obstacles on the path of implementation. At a time when it appeared that a number of projects would fall because of the logjam, government took the bold step to set up the Cabinet Committee on Investment and the Project Monitoring Group. Thanks to the swift decisions taken by them, by the end of January 2014, the way was cleared for completing 296 projects with an estimated project cost of rupees 6,60,000 crore. Exports have recovered sharply, and the recovery must be seen in the context of growth of global trade, declining from 6.1% in 2011 to 2.7% in 2013. India's merchandise exports reached a level of $300.4 billion in 2012-13, registering a negative growth of 1.8% over the previous year. Though 2013-14 began on a pessimistic note, I'm happy to inform the House that the year will end with estimated merchandise exports of $326 billion, indicating a growth rate of 6.3%. However, imports are down, and this does not augur well for either manufacturing or domestic trade. Our aim must be robust growth in both exports and imports, with trade in balance over a period of time. Manufacturing is the Achilles heel of the Indian economy. The deceleration in investment in manufacturing is particularly worrying. Consequently, there is no uptick yet in manufacturing. The national manufacturing policy has set the goal of increasing the share of manufacturing in GDP to 25% and to create 100 million jobs over a decade. 8 national investment and manufacturing zones have been announced along the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and 9 projects have been approved by the DMIC Trust. 5 NIMZs outside DMIC have also been given in-principle approval. 3 more corridors connecting Chennai and Bengaluru, Bengaluru and Mumbai, and Amritsar and Kolkata are under different stages of preparatory work. Additional capacities are being installed in major manufacturing industries such as steel, cement, refinery, power and electronics. Several measures have been taken to promote micro, small and medium enterprises, including notifying a public procurement policy, establishing technology centers and common facility centers, and launching the Khadi mark. We have given a big push to infrastructure and capacity addition in infrastructure industries. In 2012-13 and in the 9 months of the current financial year, we have added 29,350 megawatts of power capacity, 3,928 kilometers of national highways, 39,144 kilometers of rural roads under PMGSY, 3,343 kilometers of new railway track, and 217.5 million tons of capacity per annum in our ports. Besides, 19 oil and gas blocks were given out for exploration, and 7 new airports are under construction. We have also facilitated infrastructure debt funds to provide takeout finance for infrastructure projects and ease the pressure on the banking system. Risks to capital flows. Thank you. Risks to capital flows were accentuated due to volatile global conditions and the indication in May 2013 of a reduction in asset purchases by the US Federal Reserve. The rupee came under pressure. Government, RBI and SEBI undertook a number of measures to facilitate capital inflows and stabilize the foreign exchange market. Among emerging economy currencies, the rupee was affected least when the actual reduction took place in December 2013 and January 2014. Honourable members will recall that the slowdown began in 2011-12. In 9 quarters, the GDP growth rate declined from 7.5% in Q1 of 2011-12 to 4.4% in Q1 of 2013-14. Thanks to the numerous measures that I have narrated, I was confident that the decline will be arrested and the growth cycle will turn in the second quarter. Madam, I believe I have been vindicated. Growth in Q2 of 2013-14 has been placed at 4.8%, and growth for the whole year has been estimated at 4.9%. This means that growth in Q3 and Q4 of 2013-14 will be at least 5.2%. I can confidently assert that the economy is more stable today than what it was 2 years ago. The fiscal deficit is declining, the current account deficit has been constrained, inflation is moderated, the quarterly growth rate is on the rise, the exchange rate is stable, exports have increased, and hundreds of projects have been unblocked. Madam Speaker, all this is the result of hard work. I may add, among other mentors, my mother, Ann Harvard, taught me the value of hard work. Over the last 10 years, the UPA governments have gently nudged India and Indians into accepting that growth is an imperative, that it must be made more inclusive and converted into development, and that the growth model, in order to be sustainable, must address other concerns such as environment, intergenerational equity, indebtedness, ownership and control of resources, financing, etc. The UPA government's record on growth is unparalleled. Madam, 10 years ago, we produced 213 million tons of food grains. Today, we produce 263 million tons of food grains. 10 years ago, the installed power capacity was 1,12,700 megawatts. Today, it is 2,34,600 megawatts. 10 years ago, coal production was 361 million tons per year. Today, we produce 554 million tons per year. 10 years ago, there were 51,511 kilometers of rural roads under PMGSY. Today, we have 3,89,578 kilometers. 10 years ago, the central government's expenditure on education was rupees 10,145 crore. This year, we allocated rupees 79,451 crore. 10 years ago, the central government spent rupees 7,248 crore on health. This year, it will spend rupees 36,322 crore. I could multiply the examples, but what I have given will suffice. Madam Speaker, I reject the argument of policy paralysis. Just as there are business cycles, there is a cycle around the trend growth rate of an economy. Over a period of 33 years, the trend growth rate in India has been 6.2%. Average annual GDP growth during the period 1999, 2004 was 5.9%, that is below the trend rate. In the next 5-year period, 2004-2009, it was 8.4%. And in the period 2009-2014, going by the CSO's estimate, it will be 6.6%. UPA 1 and UPA 2 have delivered above the trend growth rate. Madam, let history be the judge of the last 10 years. I owe duty to my colleagues to report on some of the major achievements in the current financial year that concerns the economy of the country and the welfare of the people. We are not simply looking back, we are actually looking forward. And therefore, I shall also report on the initiatives that are being taken by my colleagues. Government took several notable decisions, including some that were described as courageous and long overdue. Sugar was fully decontrolled, a gradual correction of diesel prices was started, railway fares were rationalized for the first time in a decade, applications were invited for issue of new bank licenses, DISCOMs, mostly sick, are being restructured with generous central assistance. 12.8 lakh land titles covering 18.8 lakh hectares were distributed under the Scheduled Tribes and other Traditional Forest Dwellers Act. The right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act was notified on 1/1/2014, finally putting to rest an oppressive colonial law of 1894. The National Food Security Act was passed, assuring food grain to 67% of the population. The New Companies Act replaced a law of 1956 vintage. The PFRDA Act was passed, placing the new pension system on a statutory basis and establishing a statutory regulator. Centrally sponsored schemes were restructured into 66 programs for greater synergy. Funds under these programs will be released as central assistance to state plans, thus giving states greater authority and responsibility. As a result, central assistance to plans of states and union territories will rise substantially from rupees 1,36,254 crore in BE 2013-14 to rupees 3,38,562 crore in 2014-15. Public sector enterprises will achieve a new record in capital expenditure of rupees 2,57,641 crore in 2013-14. About 50,000 megawatts of thermal and hydel power capacity is under construction after receiving all clearances and approvals. 78,000 megawatts of power capacity has been assured coal supply. The FDI policy was liberalized to attract larger investments in telecommunication, pharmaceuticals, civil aviation, power trading, exchanges, and multi-brand retail. Approval was granted to establish 2 semiconductor wafer fab units that will be the bedrock of the electronics hardware industry. The IT modernization project of the Department of Posts, with an outlay of rupees 4,909 crore, will be operational by 2015 in all 1,55,000 locations. The Kudangulam Nuclear Power Plant Unit 1 achieved criticality and is generating 180 million units of power. The 500 megawatt prototype fast breeder reactor at Kalpakkam is nearing completion. 7 nuclear power reactors are also under construction with the aim of achieving an installed capacity of 10,080 megawatts by the end of the 12th plan. After exceeding the target and achieving 1,684 megawatt of grid-connected solar power, the National Solar Mission entered the second phase on 1/4/2013. It is proposed to take up 4 ultra-mega solar power projects, each with a capacity of over 500 megawatts in 2014-15. Ministry of MSME will create the India Inclusion Innovation Fund to promote grassroots innovations with social returns to support enterprises in the MSME sector. I propose to make an initial contribution of rupees 100 crore to the corpus of the fund. In order to promote entrepreneurship among the scheduled castes and to provide concessional finance to them, IFCI will set up a venture capital fund for scheduled castes. I propose to provide an initial capital of rupees 200 crore, which can be supplemented every year. The restructured ICDS has been implemented in 400 districts and will be rolled out in the remaining districts from 1/4/2014. Government has approved the National Agroforestry Policy 2014, which has multiple objectives, including employment, productivity, conservation, and adaptation. A mechanism for marketing minor forest produce has been introduced, and the budget has allocated rupees 444.59 crore to continue the scheme in 2014-15. A new plan scheme with an allocation of rupees 100 crore has been approved to promote community radio stations. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has delivered new technologies to the people: the JE vaccine, a diagnostic test for thalassemia, and a Magni visualizer for detection of cervical cancer. The northeastern states, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, deserve special attention. In addition to funds allocated in the current year, I propose to release a sum of rupees 1,200 crore as additional assistance to these states before the end of the year. Madam, India joined a handful of countries when it launched the Mars Orbiter mission. We now have the capability in launch vehicle technology, cryogenics, and navigation, meteorological, and communication satellites, and are largely self-reliant. Several flight tests, navigational satellites, and space missions are planned for 2014-15. Madam, last year I had made 3 promises, and I had asked honourable members to keep before them the faces of the girl child, the young student, and the poor. To ensure the dignity and safety of women, I promised the Nirbhaya Fund and put rupees 1,000 crore into the fund. So far, we have approved 2 proposals that will receive support from the fund. In order to make it clear that the fund will be a permanent fund, I intend to declare the grant of rupees 1,000 crore as non-lapsable. And in order to support more proposals, I propose to contribute to the fund another sum of rupees 1,000 crore next year. Secondly, I had promised an ambitious program to skill millions of young men and women and had tasked the National Skill Development Corporation to implement the program. The National Skill Certification and Monetary Reward Scheme was launched in August 2013 and has been widely hailed as a success. At last count, 24 sector skill councils, 400 training partners, and 17 assessment agencies had joined the program. 204 job roles have been finalized. 1,68,043 youth had enrolled, and 77,710 have completed their training. Honourable members will recall that I had set apart rupees 1,000 crore for the scheme. The whole of that money will be transferred to the NSD Trust, and I propose to transfer another sum of rupees 1,000 crore next year to enable the Trust to scale up the program of NSDC rapidly. I may add that NSDC actually complements the initiatives of several ministries which steer skill development programs such as UDAN in Jammu and Kashmir. Thirdly, I had promised that the direct benefit transfer scheme would be rolled out throughout the country. The scheme is barely a year old. Money is being transferred to beneficiaries under 27 identified schemes, including the National Social Assistance Program. A total of 54,20,114 transactions have been put through until 31/1/2014, and rupees 628 crore has been transferred. Another sum of rupees 3,370 crore has been transferred to 2.1 crore LPG beneficiaries. The latter scheme has been put on hold for the time being, pending resolution of some difficulties that have been pointed out. However, let me reiterate that the government remains fully committed to Aadhaar, under which 57 crore unique numbers have been issued so far, and to opening bank accounts for all Aadhaar holders in order to promote financial inclusion. Who needs Aadhaar? It is those who are at the bottom of the pyramid, the poor, the migrant workers, the homeless, and the oppressed who need Aadhaar, and we will ensure that they get Aadhaar. I have no doubt that in course of time, even critics of Aadhaar will realize that Aadhaar is a tool of empowerment. Madam, I shall now give an overview of the interim budget. In some years, we over-provide in the budget. In those years, savings are inevitable. Because if there is lower than expected growth, there will be lower than estimated revenues as well. 2013-14 has been one such year. I'm afraid we will not be able to spend the budgeted plan expenditure, but non-plan expenditure will exceed the budget by a small amount. In order to sustain the pace of plan expenditure, I have decided to keep plan expenditure in 2014-15 at the same level at which it was budgeted in 2013-14. I have provided rupees 5,55,322 crore for plan expenditure. I'm glad to inform the House that all the ministries, departments that run key flagship programs of the UPA government have been provided adequate funds. In all the following cases, I have provided in 2014-15 an amount equal to or higher than in the BE of 2013-14 and irrespective of the revised estimates for the year. Ministry of Minority Affairs, rupees 3,711 crore. Ministry of Tribal Affairs, rupees 4,379 crore. Ministry of Housing and Poverty Alleviation, rupees 6,000 crore. Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, rupees 6,730 crore. Ministry of Panchayati Raj, rupees 7,000 crore. Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, rupees 15,260 crore. Ministry of Women and Child Development, rupees 21,000 crore. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, rupees 33,725 crore. Ministry of Human Resource Development, rupees 67,398 crore. And Ministry of Rural Development, rupees 82,202 crore. My colleague, the Minister of Railways, presented the railway budget a few days ago. Budgetary support to railways has been increased from rupees 26,000 crore in BE 2013-14 to rupees 29,000 crore in 2014-15. Railways need to mobilize huge resources through market borrowing and private-public partnership schemes. It is proposed to identify new instruments and new mechanisms to raise funds for railway projects. Honourable members will be happy to know that I propose to allocate rupees 48,638 crore to the scheduled caste sub-plan and rupees 30,726 crore to the tribal sub-plan. They will also be happy to find that the gender budget has rupees 97,533 crore and the child budget has rupees 81,024 crore. I am confident that there will be no cause for complaint. If there are any shortcomings, they can be addressed when the regular budget is presented. There is enough flexibility in the expenditure budget to make necessary changes in the allocations within the overall resource envelope. Non-plan expenditure in 2014-15 is estimated at rupees 12,07,892 crore. Of this, the expenditure on subsidies for food, fertilizer and fuel will be rupees 2,46,397 crore. This is slightly more than the revised estimate of rupees 2,45,452 crore in 2013-14. For fuel subsidy, I have provided rupees 65,000 crore. We have this year absorbed the rollover of rupees 45,000 crore from the fourth quarter of 2012-13 and will roll over only rupees 35,000 crore from the fourth quarter of this year into the next year. Rupees 1,15,000 crore has been allocated for food subsidy, keeping in mind our government's firm and irrevocable commitment to implement the National Food Security Act throughout the country. The allocation for defence has been enhanced by 10% from rupees 2,03,672 crore in BE 2013-14 to rupees 2,24,000 crore in 2014-15. Madam, honourable members are aware of the long-standing demand of the Defence Forces for one rank, one pension. It is an emotive issue, it has legal implications, and it has to be handled with great sensitivity. During the tenure of the UPA governments, changes in the pension rules applicable to the defence services were notified on 3 occasions in 2006, 2010 and 2013. As a result, the gap between pre-2006 retirees and post-2006 retirees has been closed in 4 ranks, subject to some anomalies that are being addressed. These are Havildar, Naib Subedar, Subedar and Subedar Major. There is still a small gap in the ranks of Sepoy and Nayak and a gap in the ranks of Major and above. We need a young fighting force, we need young Jawans, and we need young officers. We also need to take care of those who served in the defence forces only for a limited number of years. Government has therefore decided to walk the last mile and close the gap for all retirees in all ranks. I'm happy to announce that government has accepted the principle of one rank, one pension for the defence forces. This decision will be implemented prospectively from the financial year 2014-15. The requirement for 2014-15 is estimated at rupees 500 crore and is an earnest of the UPA government's commitment. I propose to transfer the sum of rupees 500 crore to the defence pension account in the current financial year itself. A modernisation plan at a cost of rupees 11,009 crore has been approved to strengthen the capacity of Central Armed Police Forces and to provide them state-of-the-art equipment and technology. Funds have been provided in the current financial year and for the next year. Honourable members, the announcements that are made concerning the financial sector in the budget speech of February 2013 have been or are being implemented. In 2014-15, I propose to provide rupees 11,200 crore for capital infusion in public sector banks. They have opened 5,207 branches so far against a target of 8,023 branches and are near the goal of installing an ATM at every branch. The Bharatiya Mahila Bank was inaugurated on 19/11/2013. Rupees 6,000 crore was provided to the Rural Housing Fund and rupees 2,000 crore to the Urban Housing Fund. Banks are under strain owing to rising non-performing assets. Bankers have assured me that as the economy turns, they will be able to contain the NPAs, recover more loans and build healthier balance sheets. Meanwhile, I cannot fail to acknowledge the yeoman service rendered by our banks in reaching government's policies and programs to the people. This year, banks will exceed the target of rupees 7 lakh crore of agricultural credit. I am therefore encouraged to set a target of rupees 8 lakh crore for 2014-15. Honourable members will recall that an interest subvention scheme was introduced in 2006-07. There is a subvention of 2% and an incentive of 3% for prompt payment, thus reducing the effective rate of interest on farm loans to 4%. So far, rupees 23,924 crore has been released under the scheme. I propose to continue the scheme in 2014-15. Madam, 10 years ago, the minorities had 14,15,000 bank accounts in 121 districts of India, where there's a concentration of minorities. At the end of March 2013, they had 43,52,000 accounts, and the volume of lending had soared from rupees 4,000 crore to rupees 66,500 crore. Loans to minority communities in the whole country stood at rupees 2,11,451 crore at the end of December 2013. 10 years ago, only 9,71,182 women self-help groups had been credit linked to banks. At the end of December 2013, 41,16,000 women SHGs had been provided credit, and the amount of credit outstanding was rupees 36,893 crore. 10 years ago, only a few thousand students, mostly the well-connected, got education loans. At the end of December 2013, public sector banks had 25,70,254 student loan accounts, and the amount outstanding was rupees 57,700 crore. Honourable members will recall that my predecessor, Shri Pranab Mukherjee, had in the budget of 2009-10 introduced a central scheme for interest subsidy in respect of education loans disbursed after 1/4/2009, under which government took over the burden of interest for the duration of the period of study and a little beyond. The scheme brought great cheer to student borrowers and their families. However, I have noticed a sense of discrimination among students who had borrowed before 31/3/2009, struggled to pay interest during the period of study, and continue to service the loan afterwards. I think they deserve some relief. I therefore propose a moratorium period for all education loans taken up to 31/3/2009 and outstanding on 31/12/2013. Government will take over the liability for outstanding interest as on 31/12/2013. but the borrower would have to pay interest for the period after 1/1/2014. It is estimated that nearly 9 lakh student borrowers will benefit to the tune of approximately rupees 2,600 crore. I intend to provide the funds in the current financial year itself. Accordingly, a sum of rupees 2,600 crore will be transferred to the Canara Bank, the designated CSI banker. Details of the scheme will be announced shortly. This year, Life Insurance Corporation has opened 1,252 offices, and the 4 public sector general insurance companies have opened 1,849 offices in towns with a population of 10,000 or more to serve peri-urban and rural areas. They are moving steadily to achieve the goals set for them. A number of steps have been envisaged to deepen the Indian financial markets. Among them are to comprehensively revamp the ADR-GDR scheme and enlarge the scope of depository receipts, to liberalize the rupee-denominated corporation bond market, to deepen and strengthen the currency derivatives market to enable Indian companies to fully hedge against foreign currency risks, to create one record for all financial assets of every individual, to enable smoother clearing and settlement for international investors looking to invest in Indian bonds. Honourable members will recall the payment crisis in the National Spot Exchange Limited. Following the transfer of the subject to the Ministry of Finance, swift action was taken to sequester NSEL and to ensure there was no spillover of the crisis to the other regulated segments of the financial market. I propose to amend the Forward Contracts Regulation Act to strengthen the regulatory framework of the commodity derivatives market. Madam, I regret to record my disappointment that the Insurance Laws Amendment Bill and the Security Laws Amendment Bill have not been passed by Parliament for reasons that have nothing to do with the merits of the bills. Pursuant to the announcement in the budget speech of 2011-12, Government is ready with a Public Debt Management Agency bill. Following precedent, it is proposed to establish a non-statutory PDMA that can begin work in 2014-15. Madam Speaker, I now wish to look forward and outline a vision for the future. I wonder how many have noted the fact that India's economy, in terms of the size of its GDP, is the 11th largest in the world. There are great things in store. There is a well-argued view that in the next 3 decades, India's nominal GDP will take the country to the 3rd rank after the US and China. Just as the fortunes of the developed countries affect the emerging economies today, the fortunes of China and India will in the future have a significant impact on the rest of the world. We therefore owe a responsibility not only to ourselves but to the whole world to keep our economy in robust health. The UPA government has a clear line of sight to the goals that we have set for ourselves. I have broken down the steps towards those goals into tasks that must be undertaken by the government of the day. I crave your leave to identify 10 such tasks. 1. Fiscal consolidation. We must achieve the target of fiscal deficit of 3% of GDP by 2016-17 and remain below that level always. Current account deficit. Since we will run a current account deficit every year for some more years, it can be financed only by foreign investment, whether it is FDI or FII or ECB or any other kind of foreign inflow. Hence, there is no room for any aversion to foreign investment. 3. In a developing economy, we must accept that when our aim is high growth, there will be a moderate level of inflation. RBI must strike a balance between price stability and growth while formulating monetary policy. 4. The recommendations of the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission that require no change in legislation must be implemented immediately. And for the other recommendations, we must draw a timetable for passing legislation. 5. We must rebuild our infrastructure and add a huge quantity of new infrastructure. Every proven model must be adopted, and the PPP model must be more widely used. New financing structures must be created for long-term funds and pooling of investments. 6. We must focus on manufacturing, and especially on manufacturing for export. I propose that all taxes, central and state, that go into an exported product should be waived or rebated. I also propose that there should be a minimum tariff protection so that there is an incentive to manufacture goods in India rather than import them into India. 7. Given the limited resources and the many claims on the resources, we must choose the subsidies that are absolutely necessary and give them only to the absolutely deserving. 8. Our cities will become ungovernable and perhaps unlivable if we do not address the decay in our cities. Cities have wealth, cities also create wealth. That wealth should be tapped for resources to rebuild the cities with a new model of governance. 9. Skill development must rank alongside secondary education, university education, total sanitation, and universal health care in the priorities of the government. 10. States have the fiscal space to bear a reasonable proportion of the financial costs of implementing flagship programs and must willingly do so that the central government can allocate more resources for subjects such as defense, railways, national highways, and telecommunication that are its exclusive responsibility. Madam, revenues are of paramount importance. The best source of revenue is taxes, and for that we need modern tax laws. I am disappointed that we have not yet been able to introduce GST. I leave it to you to answer the question, who blocked the GST when an agreement on the game-changing tax reform was around the corner? We have also got ready a direct taxes code that will serve us for at least the next 20 years. I intend to place it on the website for a public discussion without partisanship or acrimony. I appeal to all political parties to resolve to pass the GST laws and the DTC in 2014-15. Our government has passionately espoused the cause of science, promoted scientific research, and supported scientific applications and inventions. The Income Tax Act allows deductions for expenditure on scientific research, but it is limited to direct funding. We have reflected on a new approach to funding scientific research. I therefore propose to set up a research funding organization that will fund research projects selected through a competitive process. Contributions to that organization will be eligible for tax benefits. This will require legislative changes which can be introduced at the time of the regular budget. Madam, there has been much debate on illegal offshore accounts held by Indians. Investigations into such accounts were launched in 2011. Despite several hurdles in obtaining evidence from the countries concerned, the government has succeeded through alternative methods and special efforts in obtaining information in 67 cases. An action is underway to determine the tax liability as well as impose penalty. Prosecutions for willful tax evasion have been launched in 17 other cases. More inquiries have been initiated into accounts reportedly held by Indian entities in no-tax or low-tax jurisdictions. In keeping with the conventions, I do not propose to make any announcements regarding changes in the tax laws. However, the current economic situation demands some interventions that cannot wait for the regular budget. In particular, the manufacturing sector needs an immediate boost. Hence, I propose the following changes in some indirect tax rates. To stimulate growth in the capital goods and consumer non-durables, I propose to reduce the excise duty from 12% to 10% on all goods falling under Chapter 84 and Chapter 85 of the Schedule to the Central Excise Tariff Act for the period up to 30/6/2014. The rates can be reviewed at the time of the regular budget. To give relief to the automobile industry, which is registering unprecedented negative growth, I propose to reduce excise duty as follows for the period up to 30/6/2014. Small cars, motorcycles, scooters and commercial vehicles from 12% to 8%. SUVs from 30% to 24%. Large and mid-segment cars from 27 or 24% to 24 or 20%. Consequently, I propose to make appropriate reductions in excise duty on chassis and trailers. The rates can be reviewed at the time of the regular budget. To encourage domestic production of mobile handsets, which has declined, and reduce the dependence on imports, which have increased, I propose to restructure the excise duties for all categories of mobile handsets. The rates will be 6% with SENVAT credit or 1% without SENVAT credit. To encourage domestic production of soaps and oleochemicals, I propose to rationalize the customs duty structure on non-edible grade industrial oils and its fractions, fatty acids and fatty alcohols at 7.5%. To encourage domestic production of specified road construction machinery, I propose to withdraw the exemption from CVD on similar imported machinery. To encourage indigenous production of security paper for printing currency notes, I propose to provide a concessional customs duty of 5% on capital goods imported by the Banknote Paper Mill India Private Limited. I also propose to give relief from service tax in two cases. By virtue of the definition of agricultural produce in Finance Act 2012, read with a negative list, storage or warehousing of paddy was excluded from the levy of service tax. Rice was not. This distinction is somewhat artificial. Hence, I propose to exempt loading, unloading, packing, storage and warehousing of rice from service tax. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has requested that services provided by cord blood banks are also healthcare services and should be exempt from service tax. I propose to accept the request. Notifications in respect of the above changes will be issued today. I shall now present the budget estimates for 2014-15. The current financial year will end on a satisfactory note with a fiscal deficit at 4.6%, below the red line of 4.8%, and the revenue deficit at 3.3%. Emboldened by the progress made, I have budgeted for receipts and expenditure in 2014-15 that will leave a fiscal deficit of 4.1%, which will be below the target set by the new fiscal consolidation path. The revenue deficit is estimated at 3%. The estimate of planned expenditure is 5,55,322 crore. Non-planned expenditure is estimated at rupees 12,07,892 crore. Madam, in conclusion, John Drays and Amartya Sen have pointed out that India was the first non-Western country and also the first poor country in the world to commit itself to a resolutely democratic way of governance. Democracy acknowledges diversity, respects dissent, encourages debate, and decides through a government of elected representatives. Neither populism nor majoritarianism nor individualism is an alternative way of governance. Our way of governance has not come in the way of lifting 140 million people out of poverty in the last 10 years. That is the greatest achievement of the two UPA governments, and we are legitimately proud of that achievement. Madam, in the 10 years that I've been in the North Bloc, I have received wise counsel and full support from the Honorable Prime Minister of India and from the chairperson of the UPA, and I thank them. I have received support from my colleagues and from all members of Parliament. I thank them. I have seen the best of times and difficult times, but never did I lose faith in Jawaharlal Nehru's idea of India that, in the words of Sunil Kilnani, quote, sought to coordinate within the form of a modern state a variety of values: democracy, religious tolerance, economic development, and cultural pluralism, unquote. It is with that faith that I shall remain on the bridge until the day when I am sure the people of India will entrust the responsibility to a hand that will hold the scepter swayed with equity. Let me sign off with a couplet from the sage Thiruvalluvar. Vel andru vendi tharuvadu mannavan kol aduvum kodadu enin. Vel andru vendi tharuvadu mannavan kol aduvum kodadu enin. Not the spear, but scepter swayed with equity alone gives a ruler victory. Madam Speaker, with these words, I commend the interim budget to the House. Very good. Madam, I beg to present a statement of the estimated receipts and expenditure of the Government of India for the year 2014-15. Madam, I beg to lay on the table the following statements under Section 3(1) of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management FRBM Act 2003, 1. Macroeconomic Framework Statement, 2. Medium-Term Fiscal Policy Statement, and 3. Fiscal Policy Strategy Statement. Madam, I beg to move for leave to introduce the Finance Bill 2014.
Granted to introduce the Finance Bill. Those in favour may say aye.
Aye.
Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The leave is granted. The Minister may now introduce the Finance Bill.
Madam, I introduce the bill. Madam, I beg to present a statement, Hindi and English versions, showing the supplementary demands for grants in respect of the Budget General for 2013-14.
Honourable members, the matters under Rule 377 shall be laid on the table of the House. Honourable members may personally hand over slips at the table immediately as per practice. Item number 30, Honourable Minister to move the resolution. Yes.
Madam, I beg to move the following resolution, that this House approves the recommendations contained in para 76, 77, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, and 86 of the 6th report of the Railway Convention Committee 2009, appointed to review the rate of dividend payable by the railway undertaking to general revenues, etc., which was presented in both the Houses of Parliament on 8th May 2013.
Honourable members, we will have discussion on railways. Kindly go back to your seat. I would request all of you to kindly go back to your seat so that we have, please, let's not have anything else. It is something very important. Let's go. Let's have it peacefully. Let's go back to your seats so that we have discussion on railways. Yes, please go back. I want. Please go back. Please go back. Please go back. आप बैठ जाइए जरा शांतिपूर्वक होने दीजिए. रेलवे पर बहस हो जाएगी, अच्छा रहेगा. जरा शांतिपूर्वक बैठ जाइए सब लोग. The House will now take up the resolution relating to Railway Convention Committee General Discussion on Interim Budget Railways for 2014-15 and discussion and voting on demands for grants on account railways for 2014-15 and supplementary demands for grants railways for 2013-14. Honourable members present in the House whose cut motions to the demand for grant on account in respect of budget railways for the year 2014-15 have been circulated may, if they so desire, move their cut motions, send slips to the table within 15 minutes indicating the serial numbers of the cut motion they would like to move. Only those cut motions, slips in respect of which we received which are received at the table within the stipulated time will be treated as moved. Now, item number 30, Honourable Minister.
Madam, I beg to move for leave to introduce the bill to provide for the withdrawal of certain sums from and out of the Consolidated Fund of India for the services of the part of...
You have read the resolution, yes. We start with Arjun Mehwal. You. Yeah, please have, let's have, आप बैठ जाइए,
Thank you.
हाँ, आप बोलिए, आप बैठ जाइए, आप बैठ जाइए, थमी दुराइए जी, बैठ जाइए, और बैठ जाइए,
मैडम,
ऐसे क्यों कर रहे हैं? ऐसे नहीं, बैठ जाइए।
अध्यक्ष महोदय, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मैं रेल मंत्रालय द्वारा 2014-15 के रेल बजट पर बोलने के लिए खड़ा हुआ हूं। मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि रेल मंत्रालय ने जो अंतरिम बजट पेश किया 13 तारीख को, उसमें इन्होंने इस बजट में लिखा है कि हमने जो माननीय सांसदों के जो प्रतिवेदन थे और जो विभिन्न संगठनों से जो प्रतिवेदन प्राप्त हुए थे, उसके अनुसार रेलवे बजट को तैयार किया है। मैं यहां कहना चाहता हूं कि रेल मंत्री जी ने रेल बजट तैयार करते समय जो विपक्ष के एमपी हैं उनकी अनदेखी की गई है, और जो कांग्रेस के एमपी हैं खाली उन्हीं का ही ध्यान रखा गया है और विपक्ष के एमपीओं का उन्होंने कोई ध्यान रखा है। मैं ये यहां खड़ा होकर के कह सकता हूं। मैंने एक बड़ी डिमांड इनके लिए दी थी। मैं बीकानेर से आता हूं और बीकानेर और बेंगलोर के बीच में कोई रेल सेवा नहीं है, तो मैंने इनको कहा था कि बेंगलोर के लिए बीकानेर की रेल सेवा होनी चाहिए, लेकिन उन्होंने उसकी अनदेखी की। लेकिन मैं आपके माध्यम से बताना चाहता हूं, एक बहुत बड़ी डिमांड तो रक्षा मंत्रालय की थी, बीकानेर से अनूपगढ़ जुड़ा हुआ नहीं है, और डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री की ये डिमांड है कि बीकानेर से अनूपगढ़ जुड़ना चाहिए, और उनके जो 14 प्रपोजल है वो प्लानिंग कमीशन से भी अप्रूव होके आ गए हैं। उसमें सीरियल नंबर 11 पे बीकानेर अनूपगढ़ न्यू रेल लाइन 154 किलोमीटर 707 करोड़ का प्रपोजल इनके पास पेंडिंग है। फिर भी इन्होंने डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री की डिमांड को भी इग्नोर किया और मेरी बात को भी इग्नोर किया, और इन्होंने वो जो नई रेल लाइन बीकानेर अनूपगढ़ इनको घोषणा करनी चाहिए थी, वो इन्होंने घोषणा नहीं की। इसलिए मैं आपके माध्यम से कहना चाहता हूं कि ये जो रेल मंत्रालय ने, जो रेल मंत्री जी ने बजट पेश किया है अंतरिम बजट, ये खाली कांग्रेस के लोगों को खुश करने के लिए किया गया है, विपक्ष के लोगों को के कोई डिमांड इन्होंने मानी नहीं है। मैं आपके माध्यम से यह आरोप लगाना चाहता हूं रेल मंत्रालय पे। दूसरा मैं मैम कहना चाहता हूं, मैं राजस्थान से आता हूं, मैं ये बजट देख रहा हूं। इस बजट में एक पैरा नंबर 18 में इन्होंने डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर प्रोजेक्ट की बात कही है। ये फॉरेन फंडेड प्रोजेक्ट है और इसकी प्रायोरिटी होनी चाहिए। कभी भी रेल मंत्रालय ने इस प्रोजेक्ट की समीक्षा करने के लिए ना राजस्थान सरकार से कभी बात की, ना जो और सरकारें उनसे कभी डिस्कशन किया, और इन्होंने कैजुअली ये कह दिया कि हम 1000 किलोमीटर सिविल कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम करेंगे। मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूं कि ये डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर ईस्ट और वेस्ट, ये दोनों ही रेलवे के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, और इन्होंने खाली कैजुअली मेंशन कर दिया कि हम 1000 किलोमीटर सिविल कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम करेंगे। मैं ये जानना चाहता हूं कि ये पूरा कब होगा, कितना पैसा लगेगा, इसका जिक्र इन्होंने इसमें पैरा नंबर 18 में नहीं किया है। खाली कैजुअली अनाउंसमेंट कर देना रेल मंत्रालय का काम नहीं है। इनको ये बताना चाहिए कि इसमें कितना पैसा लगेगा, ये कब पूरा होगा। मैं ये कहना चाह रहा हूं कि डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर प्रोजेक्ट रेलवे के लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण प्रोजेक्ट है। इनको अलग से एक मालगाड़ी चलाने की लाइन मिलेगी, इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट भी होगा, रेलवे को रेवेन्यू जनरेट भी होगा, लेकिन इन्होंने इसके लिए कोई समय सीमा तय नहीं की है। माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, मैं आपके माध्यम से कहना चाह रहा हूं कि ये इन्होंने कैजुअली अनाउंस कर दिया, इतने इंपॉर्टेंट प्रोजेक्ट को भी कोई ध्यान नहीं दिया। दूसरा मैं कहना चाह रहा था कि इन्होंने पीपीपी प्रोजेक्ट पे कई प्रोजेक्ट रेलवे के स्वीकृत किए हैं, लेकिन आज तक भी पीपीपी प्रोजेक्ट कितने पूरे हुए? क्या पीपीपी प्रोजेक्ट रेलवे में सम्मिलित है, सफल है? इनका भी इन्होंने कोई जिक्र नहीं किया। मैंने इनको एक सजेशन दिया था कि आपके पास, रेलवे के पास सबसे ज्यादा लैंड है अवेलेबल, और अगर आप लैंड का प्रॉपर उपयोग करोगे तो रेलवे को बहुत फायदा होगा। एक सुझाव था मेरा कि रेलवे की जो अधिकतर जमीन है वो इनक्रोच हो रहा है और रेल लाइन के किनारे किनारे हैं। अगर ये बायोडीजल रेल लाइन की पटरी के किनारे किनारे अगर ये ग्रो करते हैं तो इनको बायोडीजल भी मिलेगा। रतन जोत की खेती की मैं बात कर रहा हूं, जेट्रोपा की बात कर रहा हूं, तो इनको बायोडीजल भी मिलेगा और ग्रीनरी भी होगी। रेलवे लाइन के पास जो जमीन है उसका इंक्रोचमेंट भी रुकेगा। इनका जो लैंड बैंक बनाने का, जब ममता जी मंत्री थे तो उन्होंने कहा मैं लैंड बैंक क्रिएट करूंगा रेलवे में, और रेलवे का जो इंक्रोचमेंट हुआ है उसको ठीक करेंगे। तो हमने ये सुझाव दिया था उस समय, लेकिन आज तक पूरा नहीं हुआ। मैं दूसरी बात और कहना चाहता हूं कि रेल मंत्रालय द्वारा 587 प्रोजेक्ट घोषित किए हुए हैं। कितने प्रोजेक्ट हैं मैं मंत्री जी से जानना चाह रहा हूं जो रेल मंत्रालय ने घोषित किए हैं और उनकी क्रियान्विति किस स्तर पर है, इसका जिक्र भी रेल बजट में नहीं किया गया है। तो मेरा ये कहना है कि ये खाली कैजुअल इन्होंने इसको अनाउंसमेंट कर दिया और इन्होंने पक्षपात करते हुए जो कांग्रेस के सांसद थे उनके प्रपोजल मान लिए गए और हमारे प्रपोजल को इग्नोर कर दिया गया।
एक मिनट, अर्जुन मेघवाल जी, समय सदन बहुत अशांत है और मुझे शांति की संभावना नहीं नजर आ रही, इसलिए बाकी का अपना भाषण कृपया सभा पटल पर रख दें और भी जितने सदस्य बोलना चाहते हैं।
मुझे कुछ कहना है। अध्यक्ष जी, आप स्वयं पीठ से कई बार कह चुकी हैं ये 15वीं लोकसभा का अंतिम सत्र है और कोई काम तो इसमें नहीं हो सका। कम से कम रेल बजट और सामान्य बजट पर चर्चा हो जाए, इतना तो हम जरूर चाहते हैं। और रेल बजट चूंकि सभी सांसदों से वाबस्ता होता है, चुनाव का समय है, अपने अपने क्षेत्र की बातें यहाँ सांसद रख सकें, इतना तो इस सत्र में वातावरण पैदा होना चाहिए। लेकिन मुझे समझ नहीं आती ये कैसी सरकार है कि स्वयं सरकार के मंत्री व्यवधान पैदा कर रहे हैं। प्रधानमंत्री संसद में बैठे और उनकी कैबिनेट के मंत्री वेल में खड़े, कांग्रेस अध्यक्षा सदन में बैठी और कांग्रेस के अपने सांसद व्यवधान पैदा कर रहे हैं। इसलिए हम आपसे चाहते हैं, मैं स्वयं कोई बातें रेल मंत्री को कहना चाहती हूँ, अपने संसद क्षेत्र के बारे में कहना चाहती हूँ। कम से कम आप इन मंत्रियों को कहिए, ये अगर खड़े भी हैं तो चुप तो रहें। मुझे अपनी बात रेल मंत्री से कहनी है। खड़गे जी, आप मेरी एक बात सुन लीजिए। मेरे संसदीय क्षेत्र विदिशा में मैंने एक मेमू ट्रेन चलवाई थी। आपके पूर्वाधिकारी जिस समय पवन बंसल जी रेल मंत्री थे, भोपाल से बीना तक वो मेमू ट्रेन चली थी। मुझे लगा था कि मैंने अपने संसदीय क्षेत्र को एक बहुत बड़ा उपहार दिलवाया है, क्योंकि वो ट्रेन डेली पैसेंजर्स को ले जाती थी और 2.5 घंटे में भोपाल से बीना पहुंचनी थी। उस समय मुझे एक पुराना रेक दे दिया गया मेमू का और कहा गया कि 1 महीने के अंदर इसको बदल देंगे, लेकिन वो रेक आज तक बदला नहीं गया, जिसके कारण वो मेमू ट्रेन मेमू की गति से नहीं के पैसेंजर ट्रेन की गति से चलती है और चूंकि मेमू ट्रेन के अंदर शौचालय नहीं होता तो जो ट्रेन 2.5 घंटे में पहुंचनी चाहिए थी वो 5 घंटे में पहुंचती है और शौचालय ना होने के कारण सारे यात्री परेशान हैं। वो हाथ जोड़कर मुझसे कहते हैं ये मेमू ट्रेन वापस ले लो, हमें हमारी पैसेंजर वापस दे दो। मुझे शर्मिंदगी से सर झुकाना पड़ता है। आज यहाँ रेल बजट के समय मैं आपसे अनुरोध करती हूँ कि जो सुविधा हमारे संसदीय क्षेत्र को दी गई थी, नया रेक दिलवा करके उस मेमू ट्रेन को चलाइए ताकि जो उपहार दिया था वो उपहार उन्हें उपहार लगे, बल्कि वो सुविधा उनके लिए जो असुविधा बन गई है वो असुविधा न रहे। मेमू का नया रेक दे दीजिए ताकि 2.5 घंटे में डेली पैसेंजर भोपाल से बीना पहुंच सके। कम से कम 4 फेरे करेगी और हमने कहा था ये भोपाल की बजाय होशंगाबाद तक चला दीजिए। आज मैं यहाँ इस अशांत वातावरण में भी आपसे अनुरोध करती हूँ कि मेरी मेमू ट्रेन जो मुझे दी गई थी उसको मेमू ट्रेन के रूप में चलाइए, उसको पैसेंजर में तब्दील मत करिए और जो उपहार मैंने दिया था यहाँ के रेल मंत्रालय के माध्यम से उस उपहार का लाभ मेरे संसदीय क्षेत्र को मिले, इसका आश्वासन मुझे दीजिए। एक और छोटी सी मांग, अमरकंटक एक्सप्रेस अब्दुल्लागंज में रुके, ये मैं बार बार कह रही हूँ, ये छोटी सी बात है लेकिन हमारे यहाँ के लोगों को इससे बहुत बड़ा लाभ हो जाएगा। ये 2 बातें इस अशांत वातावरण में भी मैं आपसे कह रही हूँ, आप ये दोनों करेंगे। अमरकंटक एक्सप्रेस को अब्दुल्लागंज में रुकवाने का निर्देश करेंगे और मेरी मेमू ट्रेन मेमू के रूप में चलेगी, इसका आश्वासन आप मुझे देने का कष्ट करेंगे तो मुझे लगेगा कि चलिए इतनी ही बात में कम से कम अपने संसदीय क्षेत्र की 2 बातें मैंने आपको कह दी। मैं चाहती हूँ जवाब के समय आप मुझे ये आश्वासन देने की कृपा करें। धन्यवाद।
It's not possible to continue the discussion. So now the question is that the resolution moved by the Honourable Minister be adopted. Those in favour may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. I shall now put the demand for grant on account railways for 2014-15 to the vote of the House. The question is that the respective sums not exceeding the amount shown in the 3rd column of the order paper be granted to the President of India out of the Consolidated Fund of India on account for or towards defraying the charges during the year ending the 31st day of March 2015 in respect of the heads of demands entered in the 2nd column thereof against demand numbers 1 to 16. Those in favour may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The demand for grant on account railways for 2014-15 are passed. I shall now put the supplementary demand for grants railways for 2013-14 to the vote of the House. The question is that the supplementary sums not exceeding the amounts shown in the 3rd column of the order paper be granted to the President of India out of the Consolidated Fund of India to defray the charges that will come in course of payment during the year ending the 31st day of March 2014 in respect of the heads of demands entered in the 2nd column thereof against demand numbers 8, 10, 13, 15 and 16. Those in favour may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The supplementary demands for grants railways for 2013-14 are passed. Item number 34, Honourable Minister.
Madam, I beg to move that the bill to authorize payment and appropriation of certain further sums from and out of the Consolidated Fund of India for the services of financial year 13-14 for the purpose of railways be taken into consideration. And, Madam, further I beg to move that the bill be passed. Madam, I beg to move that the bill be passed.
the bill. The question is that clauses 2 and 3 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Clauses 2 and 3 stand part of the bill. The question is that the schedule do stand part of the bill. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The schedule stands part of the bill. The question is that clause 1, enacting formula and long title do stand part of the bill. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Clause 1, enacting formula and long title stand part of the bill. The minister may now move that the bill be passed.
Madam, I beg to move that the bill be passed.
The question is that the bill be passed. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted and the bill is passed. Item number 36, Honourable Minister.
Madam, that I beg to move for leave to introduce the bill to authorize payment and appropriation of certain further sums drawn and out of Consolidated Fund of India for the service of the financial year 13-14 for the purpose of railways.
The question is that leave be granted to introduce the bill. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The leave is granted. The minister may now introduce the bill. Item number 37.
Madam, I introduce the bill.
Minister. The question is that the bill be taken into consideration. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion for consideration of the bill is adopted. The House will now take up clause by clause consideration of the bill. The question is that clause 2 and 3 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Clauses 2 and 3 stand part of the bill. The question is that the schedule do stand part of the bill. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The schedule stands part of the bill. The question is that clause 1, enacting formula and the long title do stand part of the bill. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Clause 1, electing formula and long title stand part of the bill. The minister may now move that the bill be passed.
Madam, I beg to move that the bill be passed. I beg to move that the bill be passed.
Aye. Raising. The question is that the bill be passed. Those in favor may say aye. Those against may say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted and the bill is passed. Shimulan Singh Yadav.
अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं आपके सामने एक सवाल रखते रेल मंत्री जी से कहना चाहते हैं कि रेल मंत्री जी सुने गंभीरता से 1996 में इटावा मैनपुरी जो ग्वालियर से मिलती है रेलवे लाइन मिलती है ग्वालियर से जाती है पूरी बम्बई तक और मैनपुरी ऐसा एक क्षेत्र है जिला है जो उत्तर प्रदेश के सबसे वंचित है रेलवे से वंचित अगर कोई हिंदुस्तान में है तो हमारा क्षेत्र है मैनपुरी। इस संबंध में 1996 में राममंत्री देवेगौड़ा और रामविलास पासवान जी रेल मंत्री उन्होंने घोषणा की तो 4 किलोमीटर अभी तक रेलवे लाइन नहीं बिछी और रेल मंत्री बंसल ने यहीं पर घोषणा की 2011-12 में कि अगले जून में हम ट्रेन चला देंगे, रेलगाड़ी चलेगी, लेकिन 4 किलोमीटर अभी तक रेल मंत्री जी ने उस समय भी और इस समय भी 1 रुपया प्रावधान नहीं किया। तो आपसे मेरा नम्र निवेदन है अध्यक्ष महोदय, अब तो जा रहे हैं अगली लोकसभा के लिए, लेकिन आप हस्तक्षेप कब तक कब करें? क्या हिंदुस्तान में हमारा क्षेत्र होने की वजह से मेरा आरोप है केवल मेरा क्षेत्र होने की वजह से ये सब किया जा रहा षड्यंत्र। अकेले नीतीश कुमार जी ने काम किया है। नीतीश कुमार जी ने जितनी बना गए हैं और नीतीश कुमार चले गए हैं, उसके बाद 1 इंच रेलवे लाइन नहीं बिछी और केवल 55 किलोमीटर रेलवे लाइन हमारे क्षेत्र में,
ठीक है, बहुत धन्यवाद।
और बंसल साहब ने जो रेल मंत्री थे उन्होंने कहा था, सबको पता है कि अगले जून में रेल चला देंगे, ट्रेन चलेगी, लेकिन आपकी रेल मंत्री जी ने भी 4 किलोमीटर रेलवे लाइन नहीं बिछा सकते थे। हमारा है क्षेत्र इसलिए,
धन्यवाद।
लेकिन इससे आपका फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा मतदाताओं में। इटावा भी है एक क्षेत्र और 4 ये भी, जब हस्तक्षेप करिए।
हो गया बहुत। हाँ, बोल दीजिए, आप आखिरी बोल दीजिए,
क्या है,
बोल दीजिए, जल्दी बोलिए।
कहीं रेल मंत्री नहीं बनाएंगे, न बनाए,
कहाँ है
रेल मंत्री जवाब दें।
अच्छा ठीक है,
यहाँ कहा रेल बंसल ने यहाँ घोषणा की,
हो गया।
हाँ, मना कर रहे हैं, क्या समझते हैं आप?
अच्छा
मना कर रहे हैं, मामूली बात।
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the papers on the table of the House mentioned against my name at the serial number 10 in today's list of business.
The House stands adjourned to meet tomorrow, the 18th February 2014 at 11 a.m.
चलो बेटा, रास्ते में ATM पे रोक लेना।